Need a presenter? Your Event Audio has you covered. Closed circuit audio equipment with turnkey operation at your trade show booth, live event, or private event. YourEventAudio.com is the place to go. DJ services, MC talent, and a whole lot more. Check out YourEventAudio.com today.
Save your seat now for EXHIBITOR Live 2024. The conference and exhibition for trade show and corporate event marketing is coming to Nashville, Tennessee, February the 25th to 28th. EXHIBITOR Live features 100 educational sessions and workshops covering everything you need to know to run a successful face-to-face marketing program. Plus, you'll enjoy 2 days to shop North America's largest exhibition of trade show and event products and services. Attention! Register now and save $400 with our early bird rate. Learn more at EXHIBITORLive.com. Welcome to the December 8th version of the EXHIBITOR Now Podcast. Mike Morrison, National Sales Director, WS Display. As you can see on the screen, Mark Johnson, the owner of EXHIBITOR Group, joins us now. And a lot going on, Mark. We just are all coming back from EDPA Access in Bonita Springs, Florida. That happened last week, and we both turned out to wind up on the medical office trip. We got the medical pass to go see the doctors because we both came away with not COVID or anything like that, but just your typical illnesses that happen when you travel, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately, actually, I did hear several people did get COVID that went around at EDPA Access. A couple of our team got that. I've tested myself a couple of times, but I think I just have been running too hard, too long, and it was a bad cold that turned into, I went right from EDPA up to DC for Exhibit Edge as we're onboarding a new company there we purchased, and did the meetings and went to bed. Did the meetings all day long, went to bed, but then still Tuesday really just had enough and couldn't do it, and did the doctor visit and got walking pneumonia. So it's not contagious, but it just knocks the wind out of you. And I'm hoping to take a little downtime here this week before it kicks up again next week. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people on all the teams. Everybody I talk to in the industry is either fighting it, fought it, or whatever. So we got to take care of each other, make sure we're healthy. So.
It's amazing. Here in Atlanta, we are in that what I call the 30-degree differential time. It's 29 in the morning and 60 in the afternoon, so it's almost 40-degree differential in some cases. So yeah, that's when it creeps up on you. Take care of yourself.
Well, you want to talk temperature, Mike? Here in Minnesota, we're going to be in the 60s this weekend, and then
really?
Sunday it drops down to 20 again. So we've got that same thing. My love of my life, one of them is my grandson, and they put an ice rink in the backyard, and today it's a swimming pool, but it'll be back to ice again this weekend. But yeah, it's really pleasant. It's actually green as I'm looking out here, 40s, and now in some of the areas it will hit 60 in Minnesota today and tomorrow. And then Saturday it just drops again, 20 degrees. So we have that same swing, and that's where we all get sick, is in that temperature swing.
It's absolutely crazy. I hate starting a show with apologies, but I'm going to do it then. I'm going to do it quick. I know we've got a lot to talk about. I owe 2 apologies. One is to Julie Keggy with ESCA. Last week, the microphone was set to a wrong setting, actually, and it picked up a lot of background noise of people who were running around the room, and it kind of drowned out some of the interview that we did with her. I've spoken with her. Totally understood. We're going to redo that interview in a couple of weeks because ESCA, as we know, has got a tremendous number of great things going on for 2024. And we want to make sure that those are highlighted in a very clear and concise manner. So I've gotten with her and we're going to redo that again. Unfortunately, on Sunday night, going into Monday morning, I was supposed to get up early and head to Dallas, Texas for the Winter Awards ceremonies for ESCA. And unfortunately, I had a medicinal reaction to a diabetic drug that hit me like a Mack truck and put me down for about 72 hours. So I was unable to go and experience the send-off for Larry and Mitt Arnaday, who, in my opinion, have been like family to me over the past several years with ESCA, and family to me and my wife and my daughter. They have accepted us like family, because that's basically what we were. I've sent him a long email expressing my sincere apologies, profuse apologies that I couldn't make it. I'm sure ESCA did a great job, Mark, of sending off Larry and Mitt, as well as Aaron Bloodworth comes to mind, who also retired and was recognized at the event. Several people recognized as well. But I'm going to make it up. I'll make it up at the Summer Educational Conference somehow or another at our next event.
Yeah, it's a great organization and great people. Yeah, Larry, as we said before, I've only worked with him for the last several years, where you've had even more of that. But great team, and wish them well. And they need to be celebrated for what they've accomplished. Obviously, Julie's going to be great moving forward. She's got some great new things, but it is still a time to celebrate the past and the accomplishments that they've had. So wish them the best.
Let's focus on Vegas again for just a second. Apparently, not all Vegas events go off without a hitch. And in this case, they may have run off the rails just a little bit, similar or actually in regards to smaller businesses in Vegas, according to the Las Vegas Review-Journal. It's a very well-respected publication there. A lot of people read it. The F1 race that was touted as an economic boom for the city during typically a slow weekend before Thanksgiving, the race, as well as Clark County leaders, said the weekend would generate about $1.2 billion in economic impact for the area, with roughly 315,000 fans coming to the event. But small business owners say their books didn't show anything of a boost. Others said that the road closures actually hurt their business. Mark, is this a case of you're just a small guy trying to play in a big time game, or can F1 do something which can see more small businesses see a pickup on the next go round? Because, by the way, they have a 10-year contract for that event in Vegas.
Yeah, it's a 10-year contract, my understanding, with 3-year extension possibilities also. So it could be as many as 13 years. And I think that this is something that I hope, I don't know, maybe we can address it with through the associations. But a lot of these big venues that come in, and I'll tell you firsthand when we experience it with the Super Bowl, they come in and take over everything. They own everything that you go through there, and you have to go through their supplier. Super Bowl, we did an event for the Doritos, and they wanted how hot their new chips were. We created a big fireplace kind of deal and place to come and warm yourself up. And if you remember back to the Minnesota Super Bowl, I think the high was 40 below that week. So we needed that space. But I couldn't get propane without getting it through the Super Bowl provider. And a lot of times those are big companies or big relationships, and they do forget about the small business. And I hope these groups do start to think about that. And how do you get connecting with the small businesses that go on? I heard and saw the same thing. Being out there, the road closures were really hard for us to go to some of the regular venues that we go to for restaurants or, anything that the locals would use. And then they bring it in. And I think Freeman is the one who did Formula One. They were the main GC for that. They're told who they can use, I'm guessing, and a lot comes into it. Semi-trailers and planes came in and out of that airport with moving their equipment in and stuff. And I think that the big boys do well. It sounds like some of the casinos did very well. I think we talked about before the $1 million tip in one of the casinos. But, for all of us to do well, we've got to figure out how to support the small business. Otherwise, the town itself isn't going to support it, and they'll have other issues that go forward. And again, Vegas is just continuing to expand with baseball coming in next and the NBA. These venues are going to keep coming. And how do you do these big events? They got the Super Bowl coming up here, obviously, as we know, in February. We'll see how that affects the small business. And I think we talked about before, too, the LIV Tour has just announced they're doing a golf tournament Thursday, Friday, Saturday of Super Bowl weekend. So we'll see how that plays in with the small businesses. And, all of us have to figure out how to support each other because it affects the town and the locals. So they should consider it. In this case, for the Formula One, I know they did drop some ticket prices for the locals. If you were a resident, you got some discounts. I think it had a little bit to do with the fact that the big ticket items didn't sell, and so they had some of those issues. But anyways, my guess is from what I've seen and heard, the small businesses not only didn't feel anything, but they probably felt a little pain more than anything.
Well, and you also can't ignore, this is Thursday before our Friday upload, the shooting that actually just happened there in Vegas on the UNLV campus, and regarding a person who didn't get a job and shot, I believe, killed 3, if I'm not mistaken, or 2 or 3. It's they get kicked in the shins a lot because there's so much happening there. That just happened.
Yeah, and again, I know that if you're watching the news, all of the U.S. is on high alert due to the stuff that's going on in Israel. There's a lot of chatter going on out there, so we've all got to be extra careful. I know my team, a few of them are going to New York tomorrow for the FIT conference, which we'll talk about. And there was a few people in the industry that opted not to, thinking that New York might be a target. And it's just, it's interesting times. And yeah, and back to the Vegas thing. There was some of the rescue aid, and EMTs and that going down the wrong side of the highway trying to get to the venue. It affects a lot of things. And like I said before, any event we've got going, any activation, you better have a terrorist plan, disaster recovery, because the world is just a whole different place today.
Really is. On the verge of talking a little bit about Freeman and Exhibitor Magazine for a second for a final bullet point. Ben Barclay and some people from his staff were in attendance at RSNA. And we talked about this show the last couple of shows and that we would have a report back. Here's the notes that we received to this point. Just under 35,000 in-person registrants, huge show. 17,700 were professionals within that industry. More than 800 exhibitors covering 2 halls at McCormick Place. So you can imagine what kind of monster show that was. Exhibitors were happy with the attendance. They felt like they were having great conversations. And obviously the number one point is getting great, solid lead counts. Overall, it felt the show floor was crowded in a good way. And that people were excited to be at RSNA. There were several big players like GE Healthcare, Philips, Canon Medical, Siemens, United Imaging come to mind, and they were the biggest players on that stage. For the most part, there wasn't a lot of experiential marketing going on. You think maybe they need something to boost that up. Maybe that's just not expected at a healthcare show. I've heard the different point at some of them, though, especially a radiological one. It was pretty straight-laced affair, actually. Larger companies had nice booths, but definitely the MRI machines did all the heavy lifting in terms of interesting exhibitry. Exhibit managers feel optimistic about the state of trade shows and the direction that they're headed. And based on all of that, Mark, I have 3 guesses in regards to the Freeman rigging issues. Either number 1, there were no issues at setup. Number 2, they chose not to enforce, or they're not ready to enforce those rules yet. Or my mind goes to the fact that the medical field does have an amount of tremendous revenue options that they could have just thrown at somebody who gave them hassle at setup about it. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just got a couple of emails. I was following up for this show to be prepared, and we had a few clients at RSNA. The response from my team is there was no issues, but that was because they planned ahead of time. So we had everything taken care of. This has happened. We had a few clients earlier in the year that had this surprise, and then that's where, as we talked about on our last show, that's where it gets expensive and you manage to it. But I think most of the exhibit houses now are planning ahead, and they know what they're preparing for their clients. I believe, and I'm afraid that some of the customers who maybe go on their own, or maybe the international that come in, may get a surprise with this going forward. But the more we can keep talking about it, the better. And then this did come up at Access last week, and back to Julie and Eska, they're working to help us with at EDPA, the 2 associations get together and talk to Freeman, and how do we manage this, communicate this, and anything else going forward. So if there's other changes that come, how do we handle this without the surprises with it? But yeah, I heard the show went well. I know medical has higher stringent rules on what you can and can't do, so that might pull back on some of the experimental that you can do. But yeah, it was a good show, good attendance. Excuse me. But nothing real fancy or flashy like we're all hoping to see here in a couple of weeks or a month at CES.
Yeah, that's right around the corner too. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but we're going to take a quick time out and have our interview time. Sandra Braun, who is the National Accounts Director for Nth Degree, and I had an opportunity earlier today to chat about her most recent Ambassador of the Year award from EDPA Access last week in Florida. Sandra is known throughout the industry for her dedicated work with the Randy Smith Memorial Golf Classic through the EDPA Foundation, and also with the Southeast chapter of EDPA, which she was recognized for. So we had an opportunity to chat a little bit. She was on the road at a show, and so we'll have that interview, a little chat with Sandra Braun, the EDPA winner of the Ambassador of the Year, right after this short timeout.
Are you searching for trade show and event products and services? Find it on Exhibitor Exchange is your complete buyer's guide to trade show exhibiting and events, featuring the trade show industry's top exhibit and display providers. Find it on Exhibitor Exchange is the industry's best shopping and commerce resource for buyers and sellers of exhibit and event products and services. Reaching 20,000 exhibit and event buyers in every print issue of Exhibitor magazine, and 140,000 exhibit and event buyers online each year. Search the listings or list your company today. Learn more at exhibitoronline.com/find it.
Welcome back to the Exhibitor Now podcast. You know, last week we talked about being in Bonita Springs, Florida for the EDPA Access event, the conference that happens every year. And there's a lot of things that happen at that type of a conference. Of course, education and content are at the top as far as reshaping and replanning for your playbook for 2024. We've spent a lot of time talking about that, had a lot of guest speakers talk about the impact of moving forward for your business in an upcoming year that has a lot of question marks, to be honest with you, around it. But the fun part is the award ceremony that happens at the President's Gala. And there's 3 awards in particular that are right at the top of the list. All of them are important, as we know, but 3 of them stand out. One of them is the Hazel Hayes Award. It is the highest honor that someone can be bestowed. We're going to have that guest on our show next week, as a matter of fact. Looking forward to speaking with Rob Cohen about that. Designer of the Year, of course, Amanda from Star got that. Mark's really proud about that. But here's one that out of all of them is the most deserving to it's so funny. We're just off mic talking. I mean, I really truly believe she started this industry in junior high school. I mean, she had to have been like 13 when she came into this, because she looks like a junior high schooler now. But the Ambassador of the Year award went to my good friend Sandra Braun from Nth Degree. Sandra joins us now on the Exhibitor Now podcast. Sandra, I know you're on the show floor. You're graciously taking time out to talk with us today. We appreciate it very much. You look good. I'm sure you're busy as heck. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, let's talk about a few things. She's the National Accounts Director for Nth Degree. The award was primarily focused on your efforts with, and rightfully so, the Randy Smith Memorial Golf Classic, which is funded and helped by the EDPA Foundation. They have a big, huge impact with that. Obviously, your efforts with the Southeast chapter, you run that. I mean, you're the godmother of that. I was off mic thinking, you know, if Rich Johnson is the godfather of the Randy Smith, and you're the godmother of the Randy Smith, because you kind of are sitting there with a stick, making sure things happen. Volunteers, of course, have nothing but praise for you. And the question I asked you off mic, I'll ask it again, is, and you're kind of like me when you're doing podcasts and all these other kind of things, when do you have time to work?
Well, as you know, you figure it out, right? And both of EDPA organization and the Randy Smith are, you know, near and dear to my heart. So I make time, right? And fortunately, I have a great team of people that work with me on the Southeast chapter. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do it. And as you know, Rich Johnson's our fearless leader for the Randy Smith, and Robert, Rich, and I work really closely with the rest of the board members to make that happen. And if it wasn't for all the different people I get to work with, that I love working and collaborating together to make everything happen, it would be a lot harder.
And that's a good point, because you know, hiccups happen with such an event that size. There's something's going to go wrong. Somebody's going to stump their toe. Somebody's going to have a problem. And you have to deal with the good, the bad, and the ugly, the blood, sweat, and tears, and all of those analogies together in such an event. And somehow or another, it always seems to shake out, and everybody has a great time at the end, right, and they all come back the next year.
And bring their friends, right? It's
Well,
like, who else can I
you hit
bring
on
to
that.
this amazing event?
You hit on that, because that we talk about the laying of the sword down. It's kind of symbolic, where we all drive into the parking lot. When you get out of your vehicle, the first thing you have to do is unstrap your war gear, if you will, and lay it down on the ground and go, okay, for today only, we're going to coexist in a golf environment. And we're going to have some fun. We're going to play a little golf. You may end up with a foursome that somebody's a competitor. That's happened to me before. It is what it is. But you got to focus on the mindset of why you're there and where the money is going, and people are being helped. And it's tough. I have to get up sometimes and walk out that point in the evening where recipients are honored and they have a chance to speak. And it's a check and balance about life. And especially at my age, because I'm much older than you are. And those things happen when you sit there and listen to those things. But it's still a great event. And your efforts for what you've done are admirable, and certainly deserving of an award such as the Ambassador of the Year award. Let's change gears for just a second and talk about a news article that hit us that your company was involved with a few months back. And that was, of course, the merging of Fern and End under the same roof. Now, that came across as somewhat of a shock for a lot of the industry. But what can you tell us? It may or may not have affected you personally, but maybe a little bit about the environment of work now with the two companies coming together, the idea of an I&D and a GC together under one roof as the same team going after. How's that affected you and your company to this point?
Okay, so we still are operating the different businesses very separately, but it has allowed us to offer additional resources to our customers. So not that we are looking to get, well, I'm trying to figure out the right way to say this. So if we have, like, say, a customer doing a private event and they're looking for those resources, we can expand in that area in our labor management group. So it has basically just added additional tools to our toolbox. And the Fern people have been great, getting to know them, seeing how we can align more together, continue to build our businesses, and see, where the future holds for us.
That's a great summary, because that's what I envisioned as well. Besides just putting more dots on the map about here are our locations, and they've just exponentially increased because we acquired a company, let's say, then the idea of resources and being able to do your job better with more makes a whole lot more sense. And I'm sure to this point, all I've heard is great things about it. I know some companies may have been rubbed the wrong way, but it'll be interesting to see if others start going down that road of maybe finding a collaborative partner and doing that, and maybe even outside of GC and I&D, maybe they'll go do something different. It'll be interesting to watch. Finally, and I know you're busy, I want to respect your time. We talked a little bit about off mic. I spent just a little bit of time on the volunteer board for the Randy, and each time we would have the phone calls, right? Those inevitable, horrible. Now, they were great phone calls, but it was challenging, right? You got to sit there, and Rich would do the same thing. And I pick on Rich Johnson all the time. He's a brother, mother to everybody, it seems. But one of the things that kept being asked, and this is my final question, is what can we do different for the next year or that year for the Randy to have some type of an impact? Now, we know the impact of the Randy is what it is. It stands on its own. It has its own legs. It doesn't need any kind of gimmicks. But we have pulled some, punt, pass, and kick. I remember that year when you take a golf ball and kick it. I know, because I got a big bruise on my foot trying to cut the golf ball down, 5 feet down the way. And then we tried some different type string and all this type of stuff just to kind of make the game interesting. But besides those type of gimmicks, what else might be on the drawing board? I know it's early, because this is the time you take a little time off from the Randy, but there might be talk. I know, I believe you could highlight the fact that we'll be going to another course next year that'll accommodate the many golfers that we get, and that will help tremendously, because a 7-hour round of golf is painful. Yes. But what else can you talk about that's on the chalkboard or the grease board, if you will, for the Randy for 24?
Okay, so first of all, as you know, 2024 is our 30-year anniversary. So we're super excited about that. And we don't really have anything at this point that we know that we're adding. But as you know, our whole goal is, first of all, how can we be better? we're always looking for different ways. We after the event's over, we have a call and we're like, okay, we're our worst enemy, right? Where did we fail? What were the hiccups? And we go through that. How can we improve for the following year? And then Rich is always challenging us to, how can we make this event more fun than it already is? Because he really, that is his thing. Like, we want everybody to come out and have a good time, not be pained by a 7-hour round. So that will definitely be different this year. So we are definitely thinking of new things that we can do, but we haven't, nothing that I can disclose at this point, but we're super excited for our 30-year anniversary. And we actually should probably be able to nail down a date by the end of this year so that we can get people starting to plan for it. Because last year, as you know, or this year, excuse me, people signed up so far in advance. We had to put a cap on golf because the number of people that wanted to be there, and we just continue to grow each year, which is super exciting because this event means so much to so many people, and us just being able to help the families that we are able to year after year.
Not only that, I said that was the last point, but there's one other I'll have to throw out there, and that's the Get Out of the Gutter that happens in the end of summer, usually the third or fourth week in August in Atlanta. And every year that it's happened recently, it seems like the bowler count has exponentially grown. Double shifts that fill up almost the entire lane. Unfortunately, I fell a little sick that day, and behind me are all those big bowling awards that I've won, and I couldn't even make the first cut. But Mama said there'll be days like that. Want to see Mama?
Right.
In the mouth. But that happens. But the event itself is amazing, and what you've done with that and the Southeast chapter is amazing. And it was part of the reason actually that you got that Ambassador of the Year award.
No, I love that event. I was looking at the awards behind you when we were talking. I think there's going to be another one up there for 2024.
There's just a couple. There's just a couple up there. I try to focus on the World Series champs, the Atlanta Braves, but we got to have more of that coming up on my wall versus bowling awards. No, seriously, Sandra, I know you're busy. I want to respect that time, but thank you for allowing us to talk with you a little bit today about the Ambassador of the Year Award, what you do for EDPA, and we're looking forward to a great 2024 and continuing on.
Yes, absolutely. And thanks for having me on your show.
Yep, we're going to come back and wrap things up after this. Attention, trade show and event marketing professionals. Are you ready to take your face-to-face marketing expertise to the next level? Join more than 3,000 candidates currently enrolled in Exhibitor Group's Certified Trade Show Marketer Program. CTSM is corporate America's top source of the industry's best trade show and corporate event training. CTSM certified trade show marketers enjoy expanded career opportunities, greater respect and authority in their organizations, and earn higher salaries than their acronym-free peers. Learn more, earn more. Visit ctsm.com today.
Great interview, Mike. It was great to see Sandra win that award last week at Access. Really a nice person. She does some great work for the Randy, as you know, and you highlighted, and the association, and just a lovely person, inside and out. I love talking to her, and it's great to see somebody that committed to the industry.
Yeah, if you heard the interview, my favorite part is I always pick on her because I told her she started when she was in junior high school, because she always looks like she's a high schooler at worst. And of course, she always says, "I love you, Mike." And so in order to hear that, I just keep telling her that so I can get reaffirmation that somebody in this world and this industry loves me. I hope my wife doesn't hear that. But yeah, she's super great and just a great person to have on your team when you're planning such events as the Get Out of the Gutter event for EDPA, the foundation, and also the Randy Smith. So she does a great job. Next week, we have the opportunity to bring on Rob Cohen. Now, Rob was the winner of the highest award that was bestowed on an individual at EDPA, and that's the Hazel Hayes Award. So I've known Rob. Matter of fact, I met 3 people, Mark. The first access, well, it wasn't access then, it was just the EDPA meeting. It was 2001 in Lowe's Resort in Miami Beach, Florida. And I met 3 people on the bus going to play golf. And the first 3 people who befriended me, it was Dave Wallens, Bill Glasser, of all people, Exhibit Concepts, Kelly's husband, and Rob Cohen. And those three, we have some stories, but between the three of us over a 23-year period. So looking forward to chatting with Rob next week about that award. Tell us a little bit, any updates on the Exhibitor Live? That's our next big event. It's coming up in the end of February in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, again, we highlighted a little bit of it last week at Access. First of all, for a lot of our listeners that are on the service provider side, we do have a separate track, one-day certification that we're working with for EDPA to create that for more of the industry perspective. And Jeff Hanna is working with us for the content. He's been a professor or a presenter for us for years, and he'll continue that effort, or at least add to it now. In addition to it, we're looking at how do we continue to support all of the exhibit houses when they get new employees between, after live and in between the other events. So that'll be an ongoing program too that we'll continue to work with Jeff on and create that. And that'll be our content and our commitment or our support of the industry that will continue to go within that area. So in addition to that, we are looking to increase the CTSM program to maybe have a certification that is CTSM S or supplier or P for professional that's really working in the industry to support those that are actually the trade show and event marketers that we deal with on a regular basis, our end customers. But yeah, the program is really shaping up well. Like I said, we're right on track for 2,000 or above where we have been year to date for 2018. So we're back to pre-COVID numbers for the end customers. Again, the trade show and event marketers, the CTSMers that are coming for education. The trade show exhibit is keep shuffling a little bit, but we're getting the floor is filling up. There's not a lot of spaces left with that, so we feel really good about it. I should highlight, if we haven't already, one of the big changes for those of us listening that haven't heard this yet, we did announce it last week at Access. If you're not exhibiting at the show, and in the past you've been able to get a one-day pass, those one-day passes are going from $150 to $3,000. And the purpose for that is to really protect the exhibitors and to stop the thing we all know called suitcasing. And I have to be honest, I was one of the offenders years ago. I would get a pass from our buddy Rob Cohen, and I could walk the show floor and see what's going on. And I could meet with a lot of the customers and or suppliers that were with that. And that was my naivete when we started, and we're doing some of it. It's not right. We got to protect those people, the companies who've exhibited there for years and are exhibiting there again. They're paying and supporting and putting the team there. So we want to make sure we have that in play. So I want to give everybody a heads up on that. If you're going to wait for the last minute, if you're going to bring a few people, you might want to jump in and grab one of our 10 by 10s that we still have available or other booth space, so you can at least come in and walk the floor and see it. And we're going to have a lot of attendance with it. Again, I've talked to several of the exhibitors. We've gone down from 3 days on the show to 2 days, but we've got the same amount of hours. So we're really trying to give people more condensed and not do events during the show hours. But the last day of the show historically has been a little bit slow. So we're just eliminating that and trying to bring it into 2 full days. There's a lot of activities on the beginning and the end. So we're really asking people to look at their schedule before you book it. You might want to stay that last day and go out the next day, because our closing party, we've got some surprises coming. There's some good entertainment, good involvement with everybody. And I think it's a good opportunity to continue to network and work with your customers, suppliers, supporters, partners, however you want to look with it. So we're excited about that. We are very close to announcing 25, 26, and 27. We have some of the contracts signed, but real soon we'll be able to announce the next 3-year shows and what's going on. And things are progressing real well. We're excited about some of the other changes that are coming on, and we'll tease everybody with each one of these meetings or podcasts that we have too going forward.
Teasing, I don't like that. Everybody just wants to know the information, right? That's a huge bullet point that you said about the 3,000. It makes sense, especially coming from a reformed suitcaser like yourself. So
yes, yeah, and again, that's one of the things that David brought on. That's IAEE, and a lot of the other associations have done that for years. And we did talk to our regular exhibitors as we went forward this year. And the message we got resounding was, it's about time. So it's like, all right, we got it. And yep. And I plead guilty for my part and ask for forgiveness and move forward. But it's how we work together in the industry. So.
Finally, some exhibitor writers that are going to be on the road and some stories that are coming up. I know the coverage for CES, ISE is coming up with your on-site writers for that. But Charles Pappas is heading to FIT Capstone event, which is a big event for many people in our industry. He gave us some insight on that. Could you enlighten us a little bit on what exhibitor will be doing at that event?
Yeah, we've really expanded our editorial team, so we've got several more staff and support people that are going with it. So those are just a few that we've got covered right now. Bemidji's program and FITs are two of the big events that we've got going for getting new talent, meeting these designers going forward, and we want to make sure we've got all those things covered with that insight with it. The award program is continuing, as you talked on a few of it. I know Ben and the team is heading over to Brazil for a show, Barcelona, sorry, coming up. There's just a lot of activity, and you're going to see more, not only in the magazine and the digital, but also on our regular insights that come up on a monthly basis too. So the team's doing a great job. Looking forward to see what Charles comes back with at FIT. Talented group of people, great writers. And again, you even saw with the RSNA, when there's a thing that pops up with the Freeman and the regulations, or any regulations that pop up, we want to make sure we're there to cover it and really drive the information that's going on. Again, we have a good 30 to 50%, depending what number you use. I like to use 40% brand new people in this industry. So how do we help share this information? What we're trying to do here in the podcast, what we're trying to do in the editorial in the magazine, everything that's we're got going, we want to make sure we're the insight and driving that information for the industry.
Sounds good. It's going to be a lot. Of course, January is always packed with shows. If you look at the list, it's a full roster, and you can't cover them all, but you try to cover the big ones. But just let Ben know if he needs somebody to carry those suitcases. I'm available. From the EXHIBITOR Now podcast,